Good evening, everyone. And before I start, I'd just like to sincerely thank you all for coming out tonight. The amount of people, the diversity of people here from all walks of life is truly a testament to the character of St. John, to your generosity, your kind hearts, and your support of social responsibility. So thank you very much. I just want to take about 10 minutes or so just to take you through a journey of how Gems of Hope was started, and also talk about some of the successes we've had so far. Kind of give you a little bit of progress support. I know many of you were here at our event last year, and I think it's very important for you to understand that these events make tangible and meaningful impacts across the world. So we're going to have some evidence of that. And I also want to speak briefly to some of our new and exciting partnerships with the TRC and BCAPI, okay? So before we get into the progress report, I just want to paint a picture of my experience when I was out over in Kenya. And so here's a few of the things that I saw. I took this picture here while I was traveling in Kenya. I think it speaks to the worst drought that they had in 15 years. And you can imagine how this impacts a rain-dependent economy whose biggest industry is agriculture. You can also envision how this would impact the poor and the people in need with rising food prices, and how this might translate into crime. And that's what I witnessed. I also witnessed a government incapable and unwilling to help its people. The mere fact that I stand in front of a sign that says corruption-free zone definitely speaks to the extent of the problems. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. I also saw frustration of a people manifest itself as crime and violence. And just a year before I got there, there was the infamous genocide that happened due to the post-election violence. And there was certainly a lot of violence when I was there. I can tell you specifically, I know volunteers like myself working in different slums who got held up at gunpoint, driven around into the second biggest slum in Southeast Africa called Kibera. But then imagine this, you're in a van, you probably are thinking, will I die, will I get raped, who knows? You're extremely scared. But then they sort of speak to you in a broken English, they ask you where you want to go, and they drop you off at that location. Quite polite afterwards, in fact. But they had to steal your money because that's the only way they could eat that night. That's the only way their children would survive. And I know people who have gone through like that. So there's no solution to that problem, but I just kind of want people to grasp the complexity of the issues over there. I also saw certainly a country ravaged by AIDS. And the numbers on this map, this is from 2003. Those are not population numbers, those are people afflicted with HIV/AIDS. You can see Kenya in 2003 has 1.2 million. Out of the world, 33 million people suffer from HIV/AIDS. 22 million of those 33 are in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, it is an enormous problem. It is destroying lives. It's something we need to address as a global society. Now, sometimes maps don't really do the trick in terms of getting people to understand the extent of the problems. So I want to share with you just a quick story about the woman on the right in the blue shirt. Her name is Salome, and I spoke with her, and she directly told me of the day when her husband died of HIV/AIDS. She was left a widow, and she, like many who suffer the wrath of HIV/AIDS, became depressed. And one day, she just decided to walk onto a major road, just hoping to be hit by oncoming traffic. And it was her friends. It wasn't her family, because most families abandon people who have HIV/AIDS. It's a huge stigma over there. But her friends pleaded with her to come back. And they said, they tried everything and she wouldn't come back. Finally, one said, well, who's going to take care of your child? Your child will just die. You know, you can't survive without a mother. That seemed to resonate, so she came back. But I'll tell you what, last year I got an email, and Salome's child died of HIV/AIDS as well. And unfortunately, there is no happy ending to this story. And I tell you this story because almost no stories in the slum end with happy endings. And part of the reason we're here tonight is to generate a few happy endings for these people. So I hope that resonates with you. And I'll tell you, once you see a lot of that stuff on a daily basis, you become very skeptical of your ability to make an impact, because the magnitude of these challenges are so large. There's, the poverty cycle is fueled by so many interrelated variables. So you don't just have poverty, you have poor health, you can't get a job, you have to go into a life of crime in some cases. So there's malnutrition that plays into that. It's a huge complex web. It's very difficult to break that cycle. And to be honest, I felt quite alone when I was over there. I felt very frustrated. And I kind of realized that's how people in the slums feel every day. They feel alone, they feel frustrated, they feel like they're in despair. So I took this picture and it just seemed to be very fitting, because that's kind of the life over there. But at the same time, when I was teaching children English, I saw a lot of these types of faces, and they definitely make you smile, and they definitely make you realize that there is hope. Like, these people have an incredible determination, perseverance to move on. They want to have a better life, they just don't have the means to do so. And so what I did was being very passionate about this cause, worked with some local leaders to develop a sustainable plan for their development. And you see, these are the people that I worked with. The person right next to me on the right is the lady that I speak to on a weekly basis. Her name is Sofia Borongo, and she is the person who founded the Tumaini HIV program that we're here supporting today. She also founded the Ngando Preparatory School that we're also assisting. The three other individuals are people from the local NGO that helped me identify how to best develop a plan that would empower these individuals to take their lives into their own hands, to basically build a sustainable foundation. Because right now they didn't have that by any means. Now, it's all great to have a plan, because plans always look great on paper. But just like every plan that comes out of Africa, oftentimes the limiting factor is funds. And this was the case for us. And so I turned to St. John. I turned to my friends and my family, businesses. And for those of you last year, I turned to you. And we raised $17,000 in our first year. And that made an enormous impact. And so what I want to do is take you through a little bit of the successes that we've had with that $17,000. I think it's very important for you to see that all the money you're spending tonight goes directly to these causes. It translates into a meaningful and tangible impact for these people. Okay, so all the money we take tonight goes towards these causes. So the first step in our sustainable development plan was the purchase of land. So on the left is the old land. You can see that there's no grass, there's rocks everywhere, it's very crowded, very cramped, very unhygienic. I can tell you firsthand, when you get a bunch of little kids on that playground, those rocks do a lot of damage. And on the right, we have 1 acre of land compared to a quarter. Green space for the kids to run. But I'll tell you what the key success from buying this land is. One is, on the left, they had to pay enormous rental costs for this school. And these costs accounted for 50% of their expenses. So the school rental costs were making this organization unprofitable. By owning their own land now, they go from non-profit to profitable, which obviously is a huge step in terms of sustainability. The second key thing about this land, which we took a lot of time to select, is that it has government water supply. Now, for anyone who's been in Africa, especially in Kenya, the ministry that's responsible for water is the second most corrupt. And you can imagine what they do is they let people cut into their main source of water, and then they sell it for 100 to 200% premiums to the people in the slums who don't typically have water supply. So now, this school is going to have their own government supply of constant water, They'll be a lot more affordable, and as well they'll be able to provide this water to the broader community. So it's not only going to help the school and these children and the women, it's going to help the entire community. And third, with an acre of land, they're going to be able to grow their own food, which will help with costs and obviously with nutrition as well. We also built the toilets, the latrines they call them. Might seem kind of funny to start with the toilets, but given the budget and the plan that we set out, this was the next logical step. And I can tell you that this is an enormous upgrade to what they had before. So it's not just the fact that one's made of wood and looks pretty bad and that the other one's made of cement and is much cleaner. If you stepped into those latrines on the left, you would see walls covered with white worms. Like, I went in there once, I did not go back again. And not only that, the entire school smells as a result of this. And these children have to use this every day. And as a medical student, it makes me cringe when I see conditions like this. So this is contributing to massive health problems. They also made a water basin, so we've completed the construction of water basins. Will hold all the water for cooking and drinking. And we've done some final touches in terms of fencing and building a road to get buses into the school and all that stuff. So the next steps, phase 2, which is what you will be supporting today, is the construction of the school. Okay? And this is going to be instrumental. They anticipate this will go quite quickly. And as part of the school, not only will we be able to educate the children in this community, but it will serve as an HIV education center. This is much different than the current setup that they have. So the Tumaini HIV/AIDS group is a group of women with HIV/AIDS who have been courageous enough to already start speaking about AIDS. Because when you go to Kenya and these countries, the limiting factor in the fight against AIDS is not necessarily access to drugs. It's getting people to get tested, to admit they have HIV/AIDS, to figure out how to live with HIV/AIDS. Most people will never even get tested due to the fear of being a social outcast. These women are committed to going out in the community and educating people so that we can at least start talking about HIV/AIDS, let alone develop a cure. Now, I've talked a lot about the African side of things, but over that year, Gems of Hope has evolved a lot to pursue our mission, which is to collaborate with key strategic partners, not only abroad, but also locally, because we want to empower people globally to overcome social inequities. And we are extremely proud, extremely honored to be working with the TRC, the Teen Resource Center, and they're a local organization here. And by partnering with them, it really reflects our belief that if we're going to have a globally sustainable world, we have to address inequities abroad and at home. If we're going to be sustainable, it cannot just be Africa. We have to recognize we have problems at home as well. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of these inequities here in St. John. We all know St. John is one of the best cities in the world. I can't wait when I come back to St. John. The beauty, the people, we really are something special. But you also have to recognize that there are some percentages and some problems that we can't turn a blind eye to. So these are 2 quotes from the Telegraph Journal. You can see from the title, anti-poverty fighters still have lots to do. That speaks to that problem. So, the poverty rate for children and teens under 18, 28%. For youth under 6, 34%. Now the national average is 14 to 16%. Like, there's a pretty large discrepancy there. And although the Business Community Anti-Poverty Initiative, BCAPI, who we are extremely proud to work with and are here tonight, although they've been doing instrumental and valuable work in the community, they've realized that things are not easy. So for everyone here today, you can know that we are taking steps to support BCAPI and the Teen Resource Center so that St. John can be the great place for everyone, not just the people here, but for everyone.